All right, well, good morning, everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. My name is Sandy Pugmire, and I am from HR, and we are here today to talk about commuter benefits. I understand that in our Chicago office that there's going to be some relocations from one location to another, and that it's going to impact the way that employees get to and from work. So today we're going to give you some information on transit and parking benefits and how we can reduce your cost. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Nate Booth from PayFlex. He is the subject matter expert when it comes to commuter benefits and how it all works. One thing is I do ask that you hold all your questions until the end of the presentation. So Nate, it's all yours.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate the time to speak to everybody today. As Sandy mentioned, my name is Nate Booth. I'm a senior account manager with PayFlex and a subject matter expert in the commuter benefits. And today we're going to talk about what commuter benefits can do for you, how you can benefit from it, and also take a look at some screenshots as to how to go in and place your orders. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So commuter benefits is a simple and easy way to save on an expense that you're going to have anyway. So you're going to have to pay for either mass transit or parking anyway. This is a way that the IRS allows you to save up to 40% in taxes on your commuting expenses. So these monies that you're going to use for your commuting expenses are going to be deducted from your payroll pre-tax, and that lowers your overall taxable income then at the end of the year. The types of expenses that you can actually purchase would be train passes, bus passes. In terms of parking, you can either park at a parking garage, you can do metered parking, those types of expenses. And the sole purpose of this benefit then, of course, is so that way you can transit to and from work. If we take a look at the pre-tax limits that the IRS has set for 2018, they do allow two separate amounts. They're exactly the same amounts, but they're two separate amounts, one for transit and one for parking. You'll see that transit includes bus fares, trains, subways, ferries, streetcars, and van pools, depending on your location. And then parking would include the cost of parking near your place of work in order to transit back and forth to work. We're going to take a look on the right-hand side at some ineligible expenses, and this may field off some questions later on. Carpools, now not van pools, and the IRS does specify the number of passengers that would have to be included in a van pool, but a carpool is not allowed. Telecommuting, of course, because you're not transiting to work. Walking, Easy Pass, taxis, tolls, and of course fuel or gas for your personal vehicle are not included. In order to access the commuter benefit online ordering platform, you would simply go out to payflex.com, and we're going to look at some screenshots here in just a few minutes on how you do that. Passes are mailed directly to your home once you order them. You can also set up a reoccurring option on our ordering platform such that the order will place automatically each month for you, so you don't have to go in and do that task every month. You can change your order at any time during the benefit month and up to the order deadline for the following month. It's one thing to pay attention to that this is always, this particular benefit is always for a month in advance. So right now we're already past the cutoff, which is the 10th of the month for the month of July. So right now we're in the ordering period for August, and that would be any time between June 10th, which is the cutoff for July, and July 10th in order for those orders to place for the month of August. Address changes must be made through your employer, and I've been told that Scientific Games has a self-service portal that you can actually go in and update your address as well as other personal information, and you would make your changes there, and then those changes are fed over to PayFlex on a weekly file. This just kind of gives you a brief overview of the ordering process and how it's fulfilled. So, of course, we come out to the PayFlex website, and we'll look at a screenshot in just a moment on that. we select commuter benefits. We place our order, whether it's transit or parking, and you'll see that they're very similar. We then select the particular product under transit or parking that we want. We set our reoccurring options. We then continue to the checkout or the shopping cart part of the ordering platform and confirm that we want to go ahead and place our order, and then those passes, if they're not a reloadable card, are then mailed directly to us in the mail. So here we're going to take a look at the actual process of signing in. If any of you have PayFlex flexible spending accounts, this is going to be very familiar to you. You'll see that you can come out here to the PayFlex website. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a sign-in button. When you click on that, you're going to be directed to enter in your username and password that you created when you registered for the PayFlex website. Once you do so, you'll see an online commuter tile that will allow you to then single sign on into our commuter online platform. Once inside the commuter benefit online ordering platform, you'll see a menu option that says place an order. If you hover over that, then you have the options of either transit, van pool, or parking. The first thing we're going to take a look at is placing a transit order. So in this screenshot, we've already hovered over place an order, and we've chosen the option for transit. There are actually 3 tile areas that you can see on the screen in front of you. On the far left, we have our quick order options, and you'll see that we have a commuter check prepaid MasterCard. This is a reloadable MasterCard that is a multi-purse card, so if you did have both parking and transit expenses, you could load both of those amounts to one card, and it would hold funds for you for both parking and transit. And then you'll see we also have an option for a commuter check voucher. In the center of the screen, you can actually put in either the name of the transit provider or a zip code, and then the far right tile will actually display the results of those search options or criteria in terms of the transit authority that is in that zip code or the specific transit authority that you named. In this case, we're going to go ahead and choose the Metra station there in Chicago, or Metra provider there in Chicago. And when I do so, on the next screen, it actually presents me with the specific product types that Metra offers for me in Chicago. In this particular example, I'm going to go ahead and choose a monthly unlimited pass. I'm then asked to choose my beginning station and my end station. And then it's also going to ask me to set up my reoccurring options. So you'll see there that there's a question here at the bottom of the screen that says, would you like to receive this order for multiple months? And if we choose yes, we're presented with a calendar. So this option allows you to deselect any months that you don't want that particular order to place for. So let's say maybe for the month of September, I know that I'm going to be traveling and maybe I'm out of the country or I'm on vacation for 3 out of the 4 weeks, so it doesn't make sense for me to actually order a transit pass that I'm not going to take advantage of. So I can go ahead and uncheck that month of September, and it's going to place all orders before that. It's going to skip that month, and then it's going to pick up and place the orders for the months after that that are still checked. Once I've selected my reoccurring options, I can click on the checkout button if I'm ready to check out, or I can continue shopping. This would be beneficial if maybe you had to set up a transit as well as a parking order. You could choose continue shopping and go ahead and place that additional order. Once we hit the checkout button, though, you'll see we're presented with an order summary, and it lists our specific product that we're ordering, the quantity, the amount of it. And I know especially with the Metro or any of those train providers, it is going to vary in price based on where you're getting off and where your end station, or where you're starting and where your end station is. If maybe the what I had here in my summary was not correct, you'll see over on the right-hand side there is an edit or a delete option that we can come in, and there's a marker or an X. The marker would be your edit option, and the X would be your delete option. So you can modify that order before actually confirming and placing that order. Down here in the middle, you'll see that there is a disclaimer statement that we're agreeing that this particular product is in fact for transit to and from work, and so forth. And once you check that, you'll be presented with the Complete Your Purchase button. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the parking products. In terms of parking products, there are 4 specific products that are available to you to purchase. Monthly direct pay, which actually sends the money on your behalf directly to your parking operator. This assumes that you already have a relationship with a parking operator that you're parking at on a monthly basis currently. Commuter check for parking. These commuter checks are very similar to, if you guys remember before the days of gift cards, where every store has a gift card now. They used to actually have gift certificates. Unfortunately, those gift certificates were very much like cash. If you lost them, they couldn't simply reproduce those. These commuter check vouchers are very similar to that, in that it's made out in the amount that you want, and you can exchange that to a parking provider for parking for that month. But again, it's very much like cash. It can't be traced or reproduced. So, be very careful when ordering the commuter check voucher. As mentioned earlier, we also have a Commuter Check Prepaid MasterCard. This is a reloadable card, and again, it's a multi-purse card, so this can hold both your transit funds as well as your parking funds for those individuals that maybe live outside of the city and have to park at a train station and pay for parking, and then also have to pay for transit at that station into the city. So that's a very useful option, especially in the major metropolitan areas. And then for those that actually use metered parking, we have a cash reimbursement option where you can specify a specific amount for the month to be set aside, similar to a flexible spending account, where you would then come in and file claims against at the end of the month for any parking expenses that you incurred. We'll now go ahead and take a look at the ordering process for those 4 specific types of parking products. So just as in the transit screen, we'll go to place an order, we'll click on parking, and you'll see we're presented with 4 separate tiles, one for the commuter check for parking, one for the commuter check prepaid MasterCard, one for the monthly direct pay, and one for the enroll in cash reimbursement. First, we're going to take a look at the monthly direct pay. Once we click on that particular tile, it's going to ask us to identify our parking provider. So you'll see, based on our zip code, it's going to specify the parking providers that it knows are already in our area, that PayFlex already has a relationship with. If you know the specific name of your parking provider, of course, you can specify that here as well. The very first time that you come into the Commuter online ordering platform, it is going to ask you to identify your office location, and that's what this particular system here, this screen, uses to offer parking providers to you. So it asks for that information up front. Even if you're only using transit, it's going to ask you for that information. So you'll want to go ahead and put that information in, even if you're not taking advantage of the parking benefit. You'll want to go ahead and put that office location in. That way, if you ever do need to use the parking benefit, it can actually recommend those parking providers to you. If for some reason you have a parking provider that's not specified here, at the very bottom of this search window, you'll see that there's a link here that says you can't find your parking provider, and it actually does offer you the option of creating an order with a new provider, and then you can specify all of the provider's information as well as your account number with that parking provider, so that way we can send that purchase order to them to pay for your monthly parking. On the next page, once we've actually chosen our parking provider, it's going to present us with their information, such as the location as well as their payment information. Sometimes you'll notice that their payment information is very much different than the actual location that you actually park at, because they've got a corporate office located somewhere else that all the billing goes to. It's also going to ask you for your monthly cost. So you've got a set amount that you have to pay each month at that parking provider. It's going to ask you for that, as well as your actual account number at that parking provider. Because what we're going to do is we're going to send a large purchase order to that parking provider that could have, you know, many people on that. They want to know whose account they need to deposit those funds against in order to pay for your parking for that month. Of course, there is a checkbox there that indicates I have a existing monthly parking relationship with my parking provider. So you'll want to check that. And then down below, you're presented with that same reoccurring option that we had over on the transit side, where we can have this set up on a monthly basis automatically, so that way you don't have to come in and do that each month before the 10th of the month. Once I select that, you're presented with that same calendar. In this scenario, it looks like I took the entire month of July off, so I'm not going to be parking. I don't want to have them take money out of my payroll and send it to a parking provider for a benefit that I'm not going to be able to take advantage of. So I'm going to go ahead and opt out of that July benefit month. Once I've completed those steps, I'm going to click on Checkout. I'm presented with the same summary screen where it shows that I've selected the parking direct pay and the amount that I'm paying and the same confirmation statement. And I'm allowed to click purchase, and it's going to place my order. The next one we're going to take a look at is the commuter check for parking. In this case, we're presented with the exact same screens of choosing our parking operator. Where it differs is that it actually asks us for the amount of the commuter check that we're then going to hand over to the parking operator to pay for our parking for the month. We have the same reoccurring expense calendar and options, and the same checkout procedure. Next, we're going to talk about the commuter check prepaid MasterCard. Here, you'll see that the scenario is a little bit different because we don't have to specify who our parking operator is. It's not going to be sending that money directly to them. It's asking us to specify the amount that we would like to have loaded to that prepaid MasterCard. It does indicate that there is a minimum of $10 and a maximum of $1,000 that can be loaded to the card. It's asking us to provide the last 4 digits of our home telephone number, and then also a notable date. This will be used for customer service. Should you have an issue with the actual MasterCard itself, they're going to use these for verification purposes. We're then presented with that same reoccurring calendar option. The last option is enrolling in cash reimbursement. The cash reimbursement process, again, would mainly be for those individuals that are parking at metered parking on a daily or monthly basis. And that's so that way you can actually file those claims at the end of that month and get reimbursed for those funds that you use on a monthly basis for parking at those metered spots, or a location maybe that only accepts cash. So maybe it's an actual lot, but they only accept cash parking. In this scenario, you'll see we're also not asked to actually pick our parking provider, but we are asked to specify the amount that we would like to have deducted from our payroll pre-tax and set aside in that account so that we can file claims against. And we're provided with the same reoccurring options, so that way you can place that on a monthly basis for us. Once we enroll in that cash reimbursement process, it actually creates an account within the PayFlex member portal. So that same place that you would either go to file your health care or dependent care claims and or to sign on into the commuter benefit, you're going to see a tile in here that actually shows as a parking account and what your current balance is, and you can actually click the link down below that balance to file a claim. And it's going to be very similar to filing a health care dependent care claim. You're going to specify your expense time frame. So if I were filing maybe for my May parking benefit, I would say, May 1st through May 31st, and the amount that I had deducted or the amount that I paid for parking in that month. and submit that claim to PayFlex to be reimbursed. In terms of editing an existing order, so once you've placed your order, it's not going to go through right away, such as when you place an order online for a new pair of shoes or something like that, where that order is placed right away. In this case, it's actually going into a pending order. So these pending orders actually are held in our system, and they're all pulled as one batch on the 10th of each month. So that is why that order deadline is very important. You need to make sure that any orders are placed, any edits are made, or any orders are deleted prior to the 10th of the month. So that way, it's either you want it pulled or you don't want it pulled. You need to make sure that those are done before the 10th of the benefit month. So that way, it goes into that order or is removed from that order, that batch order. We can see here, this is for a monthly direct pay. If I were to want to edit this, I would click on this marker icon and I can go in and edit my order at any time. And if I knew that I wanted to delete that, I can actually click on the X and delete that. And as with any changes to an order, it's going to actually ask you, are you really sure that you want to do this? I think there's one or two confirmation screens that make sure that you really want to make that change or you really want to delete that order. Something we didn't touch base on earlier in the demo is up here at the top, and I realize that this is a little bit older data, being that this is a demo site, but it is actually going to indicate the benefit month that we're currently placing orders for. So in this case, right now, today, we're actually placing orders for the benefit month of August. So it would say up here at the very top right-hand corner, benefit month of August, and it would say your orders need to be in by July 10th of 2018 for that August benefit month. So you can always find out what month, if you're placing your orders on an individual basis manually each month, you'll always know what benefit month you're ordering for and when your orders have to be in by. Take a look at the next screen. We touched on this already. Deleting a product order, you can actually click on that X icon in order to delete your product order. Something to pay very close attention to, these benefits are non-refundable. So very similar to a flexible spending account, these are use it or lose it benefits. The sole purpose of this benefit is to provide pre-tax benefit to you for transit to and from work and also for parking. So anything that is contributed to this, would be forfeited should you terminate employment for whatever reason. Those funds would be forfeit to the employer. Next, we'll take a look at how you log in. This is just a real quick flow chart here. We go to payflex.com, click on login, enter our credentials, and then click on the commuter benefit link that we saw previously on a screenshot. Here's also our phone number and our hours of operation. Very fortunate for everybody that unlike some businesses, PayFlex actually does have Saturday hours. So should you have any issues with your flexible spending or commuter benefit, in this case, feel free to contact us between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. Central Time on Saturdays, and somebody will be available to help you. And at this time, I'll go ahead and open it up to questions.
Great. At this time, also, I'm going to get ready to unmute everyone, so just make sure that your phones and everything is on silent, and that if you don't have a question, to mute yourself.
This is Valentin Hosso from...
Sure, go ahead. Sandy, can you still hear me?
Everybody who's going to move.
I can hear you, but I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. Yeah, I think we got some people that are on mute.
And the exact steps that go in front of you.
You have to click on the little microphone symbol and make...
Like the closest one, I think it's like 70 steps. Yeah, they count the exact steps.
everybody put their phone on mute?
Okay, there we go. I think it's a little better. Okay, who had the question now?
I've got a question that's semi-related to this.
Okay, go ahead.
These pre-tax dollars are pretty nice for covering some of the costs of this, but it doesn't cover all the costs, and it also doesn't do anything for the extra time that we're going to be doing commuting. Is the company going to be doing anything to address those additional costs and inconveniences to its employees?
Sandy, I'm going to leave that one to you. Sandy, did we lose you? Okay, that would be one that would be better directed to your HR team. So,
can you
do
hear
we have
me?
anybody from?
This is Brittany.
Now, yes, Brittany. Now we can hear you.
In HR, yes. So this meeting is specifically for PayFlex and the benefit of commuting. So actually putting it on a card and the benefit of adding money to your account and the tax benefit. If you have separate concerns, that's something you can definitely talk with me offline on. But if you'd like, you can send me a personal email on that.
All right.
All right. Other questions? Anything that somebody needs to see again? Any specific?
Well, I have a
know
question.
we covered a lot of information. Sure, go ahead.
Are you able to use these benefits towards like having an Uber car or something like that?
Great question. So not an individual Uber ride, but they do have a feature called Uber Pool, which is a share ride program. And so if you're running late for work that morning, I wouldn't recommend it because they are going to go around and pick up other people, so you might be even later to work. But yes, you can use this particular benefit, and the prepaid MasterCard will work for the Uber Pool service.
I have a question. What if we want to use multiple modes of transportation, right? So what if one day I want to use the CTA, and one day I want to use Metro, and another day I want to park? Is that possible?
You don't have the option of blending the funds, but you can use the prepaid MasterCard because it is a multi-purse card. So you could have money loaded on there if you knew a specific, guesstimate as to how much it's going to cost you for those multiple transit authorities to travel in a month. Maybe it's $100. Set $100 aside on that prepaid MasterCard, and if you know you're going to have to park in the office or park in a metered parking a few days out of the month, maybe set $25, $30 aside for parking in that month. Those funds do roll over from month to month, but you want to, of course, be very careful not to use that as some sort of saving mechanism because in the event that you should leave the company, be terminated, whatever, those funds are forfeit. So you still want to make sure that you are only putting money on there that you are sure you're going to be able to use for your transit and parking. But that would be the best option for you to use for multiple transit authorities. And then you can simply purchase those passes right there at the kiosk.
I have a question. Going back to what you said about the cash reimbursement program,
Yes.
What exactly would we need to do in order to get those funds, like kind of to prove that we did in fact spend money for, whatever, parking or override or whatever it is?
So at this time, it is, let's see, what's the best way to phrase this? At this time, it's kind of a good faith type of a scenario where they are going to take you at your word that you paid those funds for parking. However, in the event, just like a flexible spending or a health savings account, in the event that you're ever audited by the IRS, they may in fact ask to see those parking receipts or statements from your parking provider that you did in fact incur those expenses. But there is, I believe, a disclaimer when filing the claim that you maybe don't have receipts, especially if you're actually paying at a metered parking for the day. They may not provide you with a receipt at that time. So in the event that you're ever audited, you might actually have to go back to that particular location and have them pull a ledger or something that you can then provide to the IRS. But I don't believe at this time that you're required to submit any documentation for those parking expenses.
And going back to the IRS, is this something that we're going to have to claim on our taxes?
No, because these monies that are deducted from your payroll pre-tax are already identified on your W-2 as being withheld pre-tax for that benefit. It's an employer-sponsored account.
Okay.
So just to confirm, if I'm putting money in on my MasterCard and then I use the MasterCard to pay either my transport or parking provider, the money on the MasterCard will carry forward month to month, but would be at risk if I left the company. The amount on the MasterCard would be forfeited. Is that a correct understanding?
That's a correct statement.
Okay, thank you.
What about the end of the year, calendar year? Do the funds roll over from December to January?
Yes, they will.
Also, we use here a Ventra app. In that case, would this MasterCard be the best method to pay for the Metra tickets? You tie it to the Ventra app, and then you can buy your tickets on board or 10 rides or whatever through the Ventra. You don't need physical tickets.
Correct. If you're using the actual Ventra app, it would be very similar to using your personal credit card to pay for those through the app. You would simply load the prepaid MasterCard that we send to you as a form of payment, and it would then deduct from that. And or if you're loading it onto your card at a kiosk, you could then put this MasterCard in and have the funds loaded to your Ventra card at a kiosk. Either way.
How do we obtain this card? Is it through this PayFlex page?
Correct. So the very first month that you order that, we're going to go ahead and ship you the physical card itself. And then each month between the 20th and the 22nd is when they actually load those funds to the actual card. So that way it's available to you for about 10 days before the first of the month, should you need to actually purchase physical tickets or bus passes or whatnot.
Thanks.
This
You're
welcome. This is Brittany.
Great questions.
And I will
yes,
add
Brittany.
That we confirmed that the deduction comes from your last check in the month. So if you were to order it before the 10th and they do the group send out the group order on the 10th, and it would come out, for example, in June on your 22nd paycheck, June 22nd.
For the month of July.
Yes.
Correct. So again, this is always done a month in advance.
Two questions. We're not moving to the new building until August or later. Is this available to us now, these benefits?
Most definitely. We should have everybody already in the system. Am I correct on that? Kim or Brittany, can either one of you answer that?
Yes, it is available now.
Great. The other question, and I'm asking it for someone who's typed it out, I believe his name is Sean. He asked if this covers divvy or bike sharing commutes. So here we have those divvy bikes that you can go up to and take and ride to either another divvy location or return it there.
It is my understanding that no, this does not actually cover those, because the purpose that the IRS allowed the transit and the parking benefit was specifically for mass transit, in order to get people basically out of their cars and get more cars off the road. They didn't make an exception for biking, unfortunately.
Thank you.
I have a question. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So what if I have to pay, with physical dollars as far as for parking, $2 a day, for the month, that's $40, let's say. Do I just file a claim for those? Like you said, I think that's the way to go about it.
Okay, so you actually have a lot that charges you on a daily basis, or do they charge you a monthly amount at the beginning of the month?
Daily basis.
Okay, so if you're paying on a daily basis, and at the end of each month, you've got a total of $100 or $200 in expenses, and if I go all the way back to the beginning here, you'll see that there's actually a total of $260 pre-tax that you can set aside. So let's say you've got $200 or $100 in parking expenses at the end of each month. You can choose whatever that amount is to be set aside in the parking benefit. And let me get back to that screen here real quick. Direct pay, commuter, MasterCard. There we are. You'll see that you would then come in here to the PayFlex website, and there's a link here that says file a claim, and it's going to walk you through filing that claim at the end of the month for whatever the amount is that you incurred in parking expenses. So that would be the best case scenario for you. Or if they allow you to use a MasterCard, if they'll accept that, you could actually choose to go with a prepaid MasterCard and then just, pay them with that each day.
Yeah, they allowed that. I don't think there's a convenience fee. I forgot what it was, like 50 cents a day. So, it ends up being $10, $20.
Gotcha.
It's not worth it.
Nope, I completely understand. So then, the cash reimbursement would be an option for you. And then when you do that, we also obviously have the option of setting up direct deposit. And so when you come in, file your claim, they'll process that and send the money right back to your bank account.
But you can only file a claim, let's say, for cash parking as long as you set aside funds for that month for cash.
Correct.
So you can't file if you have nothing in the parking cash.
That's correct.
Thing.
Yep, unfortunately, it requires a little bit of forecasting. So this is with the assumption that you know already that you're going to have $100 or $200 or $150 each month at this same location. So it requires a little bit of guesstimation or forecasting that I'm going to have this much, I'm going to set this aside so that at the end of the month I can come in and file a claim for it. You're correct.
But if I'm a little bit over, it will carry over to the next month, right?
That is correct. And so you can adjust then what you're having set aside. You can edit those orders from month to month. You might be like a month behind in editing that, but it will all even out eventually.
Can these funds be applied to parking near metro stations, not downtown locations near the office?
Most definitely, yeah. So a lot of times Metro offers what they call a park and ride. So you actually can use the MasterCard because, again, it's a multi-purse card, so it can hold transit as well as parking. So you can actually use that same card. Now, you can't intermingle the funds, but it has those two separate transit and one parking purses on it. So you can actually use that card, and it will deduct from the parking purse for your parking, and then, of course, use the transit purse for your transit expenses. So most definitely, there's many, many people that live outside of the Chicago metropolitan area that park at a metro station and then take the train in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions today. Anybody else? All right, if there's no other questions, Sandy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you then. Did we lose Sandy?
We might have.
Okay, then let's turn it back over to Brittany.
It looks like there's a question from Daniel. here
okay.
in the chat.
Sorry, go ahead.
He asked, how does the MasterCard know which fund pool to use for parking or transit?
Now, that's a great question. So, we have what they refer to as a merchant restricted. I'm sorry, if I can ask you to put yourself on mute real quick while I answer the question. I'm getting a lot of static there. There we go. Excellent. So we have what we call referred to as a merchant restricted card. So as opposed to, say, your bank debit card where you can use it at a transit authority, but then can also turn around and go to Best Buy and purchase a TV, ours you cannot. Ours will only work at transit or parking merchants. And with that multi-purse, meaning it has those two different purses on it, it will only take money from the transit purse at a transit authority, and it will only take money from a parking purse at a parking authority or a parking provider. Great question.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's very similar to the parking at a metro station question. My village runs a parking lot right by the metro station, and I was wondering, would that be applicable to this MasterCard because it's technically not necessarily a parking service?
Gotcha. So we have run into that situation before. In that scenario, you might actually want to choose to order your transit, MasterCard, and then opt for the parking cash reimbursement. The reason for that being is a lot of times they won't have a merchant category code that identifies them as a parking provider, and so the card would be declined for parking. A lot of times they're identified as a municipal, whatever, a city, or in this case you said a village. And so for that scenario, you might actually want to opt into the cash reimbursement instead, pay them directly yourself, and then file the claim at the end of the month to be reimbursed for the parking expense. But of course, take advantage of the convenience of the parking or the transit MasterCard.
Okay, and I can do both, right? I can do the MasterCard and the cash. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
You can't do one of the same type, but because they're separate, you can do the transit MasterCard and the parking cash reimbursement. To more clarify that, I couldn't order like two different transit products. It's not going to let me do that, or two separate parking products. It's only going to allow me to do one of each, but yes, you can do both.
So on that transit question, or on that transit topic that you just said, if I take the Metro in and then take the L, would I be able to put both of them on the MasterCard or no?
What you're going to do is you're going to use that MasterCard in which to purchase your separate transit passes. So if you're buying either a monthly unlimited with the Metro, you could use your MasterCard to purchase that. And let's say that's like $155 a month, and then maybe your what's the other one, the Ventra or that's the L, right?
Yeah, that's the L.
Okay, so then if you got like a daily pass with that or something, or maybe a monthly cost you $20 for that, then you would use that, and you can purchase those individually either from their apps or at the kiosks, so that way you can take those individual services.
Okay, cool.
And you would simply use the MasterCard as your funding mechanism.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great questions.
I had a question about parking again. Out at the Naperville Metro Station, the municipal parking lots are all booked, and there's a waiting list out for 8 to 10 years. So the only options left there are other options available, but there are people in the neighborhoods that are selling parking spaces per month. How do I expense those?
That would then probably fall under the cash reimbursement. Again, we are not going to require you to provide a receipt for that parking, but you would probably still want to get something from them indicating that you did incur that expense as a parking benefit. In the event that the IRS would ever audit you and ask for that documentation, you would want to obtain that and retain that in your own records. But I would probably opt for the parking cash reimbursement and get reimbursed for those parking expenses, because ultimately it is a legitimate expense. You're parking such that you can get back and forth to work. And then that's up to them. If they're not filing that with the IRS, indicating that they're taking those funds in, that's between them and the IRS.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Sandy. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Sandy.
Okay, I want to apologize. We were having some technical difficulties with the audio. But if there are no further questions for Nate, I just want to remind everybody that the presentation is saved on the My SG Benefits website under the Library tab under Voluntary Benefits. And then we should shortly have the recorded presentation on there also. I want to thank everyone again for their time and for joining us today. Hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it.